Hello, and welcome to the Coach Right podcast, where we explore how to turn coaching expertise into published pages. I'm your host, Helen O'Neill, portfolio career specialist, accredited future of work coach, author and creator of Coach Right 90, the writing program specifically designed for coaches. You can get the episode show notes and your free guide to publishing options at coachright.co.uk. It's time for the next chapter. Welcome to the Coach Right podcast. I'm your host, Helen O'Neill, and this is episode 20. We've hit another milestone. Thank you so much for joining me on the adventure so far. It means a lot. As it's a 5-week month, today I'm bringing you a solo show, and I'm going to be focusing on the question that I get asked the most. It's a question I ask guests, and for those of you that have been listening for a while, you'll know that the answer to that question is as varied as the books available to us to read. But before we get into the detail of that, a few quick updates, and I do have just a couple of things to share. In personal news, I had the honour of delivering a workshop last week in my role as EMCC Deputy Director for Coaching Practice. The session is part of their CPD programme, available to organisational members, and I was delighted to join a coaching festival with a particular team who had the theme of thriving as a coach. It was absolutely wonderful to be delivering in person. It feels like forever ago since I facilitated a large group session in real life rather than virtually. And there really is nothing quite like the energy and connection that you get from being in person delivering. And I'm sure the same was true based on feedback from those that attended. They were an amazing group of coaches. They engaged, were really brave, trying out lots of different activities, and I am absolutely thrilled that it was so well received. If any of you are listening today, hello, welcome. And there was an unexpected consequence. I am a planner. I like to prepare, and in the run-up to the session, I'd done a number of walkthroughs to make sure that I'd got all my timings right and to make sure that I wasn't too reliant on my speaker notes. I didn't want to stand there in front of a room full of people and read verbatim things that I'd noted down for each slide. But of course, a lot of the content for that particular session was based on the research and the writing that I've done on the resilience book, which meant editing completely stalled. I just couldn't hold in my mind the content for the workshop and carry on with the read through at the same time. Now, fortunately, I am still on track for my editor, but I hadn't anticipated that this was going to be the case. And it just shows how important it is to be flexible with our priorities and make sure that we're giving our all when we have commitments. In coaching news, the ICF has announced the addition of a new mentor coach qualification. Now, mentor coaches are there to support coaches in developing and refining their skills, and it's considered a separate development need to supervision, which tends to be more common in some of the other membership bodies. Now, what it does show is that there is deep commitment in the ICF to that skill development and learning pathways, effectively using skilled practitioners to leave the ladder down for the next generation. And I find it curious that they're now placing that greater emphasis on mentoring within their member base, while still not necessarily recognising mentoring hours from practitioners. So I think it's a brilliant step forward, and there's still more to do. For me, that ability to switch hats with the appropriate contracting, obviously, from coach to mentor and back again, was one of the main reasons that I opted to accredit with the EMCC. That said, there is no right or wrong, and there are benefits with all of the professional bodies. And what I do very much appreciate is the ICF is focused on CPD and evolving what that looks like. So it's great to see them investing time, energy, and probably money in rolling that out. It's been a big news week in publishing too. There are two big stories that have come out. The first one is around Draft to Digital, who have introduced a subscription fee. Now, if you haven't come across Draft to Digital previously, they are a much loved platform for independent authors who want to make sure their books are available across multiple platforms. I've been using D2D for years for ebook distribution. I go directly to Amazon, Kobo, and then I use D2D for distribution to a whole range of other sources, including libraries. This change means that they are introducing a one-off setup fee, followed by an annual subscription of $12 per year if your books generate less than $100. If they generate more than that, you would be exempt. And it's this that's caused the uproar, because for a lot of newer authors, it's an additional cost that they might not necessarily recoup. On the flip side, of course, those that are making lots of money already are completely exempt, although you could argue that they are, by definition, paying more through Draft to Digital, taking their portion when books are sold. Like all businesses, Draft to Digital simply have to manage the increase in volume in content that's being generated by these AI content farms. And it's difficult. I've got mixed views on this. Only one of my books is currently available for ebook via Draft to Digital. I don't reach the threshold. Most of my book sales are print, and in non-fiction that tends to be the case. But I really like having them available from an accessibility perspective, and I feel it's important to support our library system. If you're yet to publish or with a traditional publisher, this isn't something you need to worry about just now. But if you are independent and use their services, I'd love to hear what you think and what you're planning to do. Barnes & Noble have also announced a policy change for print books over the past couple of weeks. And their change means that there's going to be a limit on the number of books an individual account can list for sale. And there'll also be a minimum price point for those books. So you'll no longer be able to add a listing to Barnes & Noble that's less than $14.99, which is just over £11. Now, as we've said, both of these changes are a direct result of the increase in AI-generated content. However, lots of printed independent books, particularly shorter ones, do cost less than that in print. So I'll be interested to see what happens with other retailers and what this does for those that are selling direct. The book industry is changing. These are business decisions made by publishing businesses. And if you're writing a book as part of your business, there are choices that you need to make. As I always say, you need to think about your reader exactly in the same way that you would if you're thinking about your coaching client. It's something we'll need to stay close to as time passes. One last thing, if you are listening in real time, there will still just be time to join the next cohort of Coach Write 90, the only writing program designed by a coach for coaches to help you get your book written. We are starting on the 20th of May, and I would love to help you get your words into the world. Details can be found at coachwrite.co.uk/coachwrite90. Right. That is plenty of updates. Let's get on to the main topic for our episode today. How do you get your book into the hands of readers? So a little bit like when you first launch your coaching practice and there's this mystique around how to find coaching clients, getting your books into the hands of readers has a similar connotation. Amazon reported that over 4 million books were published on their site last year alone. You make sure that yours is visible while others fade into obscurity. Well, first, it starts with those all-important foundations, getting the basics right. This is the bit that people don't really want to hear. It's not glamorous, but discoverability only happens when you feed the beast that is the algorithm, and that means getting your metadata as robust as possible. All of the data that sits on the digital stores in terms of categories and keywords means that you can be found. For categories, again, similar to coaching, go as niche as you can. Don't put non-fiction. Get more specific than that. This might be the same as your coaching niche. Then when you're looking at keywords, look for that long tail. Burnout recovery, time management tips, career confidence. It doesn't have to just be the one word. You can use more than one, and that will also help with generative engine search. Now, there are lots of tools online that you can use to help with this process. And of course, you can use AI if you feel comfortable to do so. There's a wonderful tool called Publisher Rocket that will help you with all your categories and keywords. I'm not an affiliate for this particular product, but I have owned it for years and think it's brilliant and well worth the one-off fee. So I'll leave the link in the show notes. The other basics to focus on are making sure that your cover matches the expectations of the market. You are not getting any brownie points for having a unique cover that has all these colours and fancy artwork that doesn't align with the rest of the market. You want your book to look similar to other books that your ideal reader already has on your shelf. If not, have a little chat with your cover designer and go and sort that out. Next, have a look at your blurb. That's the description of your book on the digital store. Is it compelling? Does it include keywords? As we've said, generative search is now a real thing, and we want those AI tools to be able to find your book. Some of this will be easier to tinker with if you're independently published rather than trad, but the same principles apply regardless. Next, let's think about actual marketing. So the first thing to talk about is social media. Once your book is ready and out in the world, you need to tell people that it's there or they won't buy it. Otherwise, you are literally a drop in a 4 million book ocean. Now, you can actually do this before you publish. People love a behind the scenes journey of how the book came to be, when you've got your proof copy, and when you're getting ready for that all important launch. But if you haven't done that and the book is already published, it's never too late. Start now. LinkedIn is a wonderful place for discoverability for books and has the double benefit of reinforcing your position as a thought leader. For us as coaches, LinkedIn does tend to be our social platform of choice, and you have plenty of options there in terms of posting or even sending people DMs or having virtual events online where you can talk about your book. But of course, other social platforms are available. They do tend to require more content as a general rule. TikTok favours the frequent poster, and when I say frequent, I mean a few times a day. Brilliant for romantasy, but I've not seen many academic books on there. If you have a following on a different platform, Instagram, Facebook, go for it. People who are engaged already will be interested in your book, and it's a one-click buy. Similarly, think about the community that you already have. Hopefully, you already have some sort of mechanism like a newsletter to keep them up to date with things that are going on in your world. Tell them they already know, like, and trust you and are probably your ideal reader. Again, if you're independently published, you've got a few more options here. I quite like reducing the price of my book at launch for a few weeks to kickstart sales, generate those all-important reviews, but also as a thank you to my community. But if you aren't able to do that, you can still tell people that your book exists. They will want to support you. If you have other coach friends who have newsletters, ask them to include a link to your book too. People love a recommendation. I know I do. Next, we have promotions. Now, there are a lot of promotion sites available. The most famous one is BookBub, but there are loads more. Some of them are only open to free books, while others support discounts. So again, this is really useful as part of a launch strategy. If you're really smart, you can stack these promotions over a period of a couple of weeks so that they happen in sequence, which can give your launch sales a boost and then keep them going for a longer period of time. Again, great for feeding the algorithm. David Gochran publishes a list of promo sites every year, which gives you all of the up-to-date information for different types of books and different types of promotions. Again, I'll link to the 2026 page in the show notes. Next comes paid advertising. Now, generally speaking, there are two platforms that you can advertise your book to readers: Facebook and Amazon. I recommend starting with Amazon. They're easy to set up. Your book is most likely to be there already, and you don't need to spend a lot of money while you're learning the process. You can set a cap for the day, and they have an auto-targeting process that means that you can reach readers without having to really understand too much in the back end. This is a really effective way of getting started, or if you're just dipping your toe in, and it can become a stable part of your marketing strategy. Feedback on the effectiveness of Facebook ads varies over time. Sometimes I hear that they're highly effective, while other times people report a dip. I don't use Facebook ads, but you might like to test them out and see if they work for you. In either case, set a budget and watch what's happening. If you don't, you could easily find that you're spending a lot of money on adverts that aren't converting purely because you aren't paying attention. No, it would be remiss of me not to mention podcasts. I have heard from many of you that you have gone out and bought books that you've heard us talk about on this podcast. Apologies to your bank balances, but you'll have learned a lot, so it's all okay. Podcasts are a brilliant way of getting your book into the ears of potential listeners. People love listening to people talking about books, and there are loads of different podcasts depending on your topic. Be sensible with who you pitch to. Make sure you've actually listened to the show and are familiar with the format. Suggest topics that you can cover and why that would be interesting to the audience. Next, in-person events. Now, as a coach, you might be delivering at a conference or delivering a workshop. Sometimes it can be appropriate to bring copies of your books with you that you can either sell or give out as part of that program. You can attend specific events and have a stand, for example, where you might choose to sell your books. People love to meet the reader, and there's nothing quite like being asked to sign your book. And then there's PR. Getting an article published in a magazine or newspaper. This could be something local, national, or international. There's a piece where you're named as a thought leader and the book is referenced in some way. It's a brilliant way to raise awareness for you, your services, and your books. It's also fantastic social content to reuse, so you can get multiple touch points from the same activity. I am incredibly mindful that as I talk about that whole list, all of it can seem particularly overwhelming. But as with many things in life, you don't have to do all of them all of the time. That said, if you want to sell books, you will need to do some of them consistently for as long as you want to keep selling. This is true regardless of whether you are traditionally published or independently published, and that can come as a surprise to the newly traditionally published author. Media activity is the absolute bare minimum, and you will be expected to bring a following if you go trad. The rest you can tinker with as you go. So, for example, with my book on career change, People Who Pivot, I tested promo stacking, and I managed to get that book to number 2 in the business charts. Now I'm learning Amazon ads. I like the control and the data. Now, I'm independently published, so I can do whatever I want. I hate social media, so if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I'm really not very consistent. But I do like LinkedIn. I like to engage with people there, and I'm much more visible on that platform than I am anywhere else. Of course, I also host this podcast, and I guest on other people's podcasts too. So how you get your books into the hands of readers will vary. Like many things in life, there's no right or wrong, there's no magic bullet, and everything adapts as the book market evolves. If you're still working on that first book, this is useful stuff to be aware of, but remember, the number one thing you can do to set yourself up for success is to finish the book. You can learn all the other stuff later. In Coach Right, we like to signpost it so that you know that it's there and you know what you need to know. And then we stay super focused on making sure the book is as good as it can be. And so there we have it, an overview of how to market and some pointers of some things to try. I'll be back on Wednesday, the 6th of May with Holger Niels-Pohl, visual strategist and author of over a dozen books, including the fabulous Creating Clarity. I'll see you for the next chapter. Thank you for joining me today. You can get the show notes and your free guide to publishing options at coachright.co.uk. Remember to subscribe and leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. Your words can make a difference. A review can too. If you'd like to connect, find me on LinkedIn, O'Neill, Helen, that's O'Neill, Oneill, or on Instagram at coach_right. I'll see you for the next chapter of Coach Right.